So, what happens when a government, in the middle of a war, has to destroy the property of one of its own companies? I mean, who foots the bill for that? Today we're jumping into a real-life legal saga that put a single company up against the entire British Empire. It's a story packed with destruction, ancient powers, and a constitutional showdown that is, frankly, stunning. Okay, let's just boil this whole thing down to one massive question, the one that's right at the heart of this incredible story. Imagine this for a second. To save the country, the government literally demolishes your business. Do they have to pay you back for that sacrifice? Well, that's the exact question a company called Burma Oil decided to ask.
To really get what this legal fight was all about, we've got to go back in time, back to the really desperate early days of World War II. And our story, it doesn't start in some stuffy courtroom. Nope, it starts in the dense, hot jungles of Burma.
So check this out, it's 1942. The Japanese army is pushing hard into Burma, and for the British forces, things are going badly. I mean really badly. They're in a full-blown retreat, so the command comes down from the very top, deny the enemy everything. And what that meant on the ground was that British troops had to systematically blow up the valuable oil refineries and oil fields owned by the Burma Oil Company.
This tactic has a pretty famous name. It's a scorched earth policy. The logic is brutal, but it's simple. If you can't hold a territory, you destroy everything of value so the enemy can't use it. In this case, that meant oil, the very lifeblood of a modern army. It was a necessary sacrifice for the war effort for sure, but here's the multi-million-dollar question, right? Who was going to pay for it?
So, this act of wartime destruction, it wasn't the end of the story. It was just the beginning of a huge legal throwdown. See, after the war was over, Burma Oil asked for compensation, and the government, they flatly refused. They claimed they had a special, ancient power that meant they didn't have to pay a dime.
So, what was the government's ace in the hole? It was this thing called the Crown Prerogative. You can think of it as a set of leftover emergency powers from the days when the monarch had absolute rule. It basically allows the government to take extraordinary action in a crisis, like a war, without having to run to Parliament to pass a new law. And this is where the two sides really drew their battle lines. The government's argument was, look, this was a battle act. It's war. Stuff gets blown up. You don't get compensation for that. But Burma Oil came back with a really powerful counterargument. They said, whoa, hold on a second. This wasn't some random bomb in the heat of battle. This was a planned, deliberate demolition. It was official government policy. And if you, the government, lawfully take one person's property for the good of everyone, then everyone, through the state, should chip in to cover the cost. And you have to understand this was way more than just a fight over money. This was about the fundamental limits of government power. It was a true David versus Goliath legal showdown, and it was going to go all the way to the top. The case, Burma Oil Company versus the Lord Advocate, that's the top government lawyer in Scotland, it just kept climbing the legal ladder. It was so important that it ended up in the highest court in the entire United Kingdom at the time, the House of Lords, which also served as the final court of appeal. All right, so the stage is set. Everyone is watching. The government is feeling pretty confident, leaning on those ancient prerogative powers. But the court? Well, the court was about to drop an absolute bombshell.
And there it is, bam! In a decision that shocked pretty much everyone, the highest court in the land sided with the company. They ruled that yes, the government was legally on the hook to pay up.
Now the court's reasoning here was absolutely key. They basically said, yes, the government has these emergency powers, but they are not a blank check. Taking someone's property for the public good is one thing, but making that one person bear the entire cost, that's not fair. The cost of a public good, they argued, should be paid for by the public. You've got to understand, this verdict was a political and financial earthquake. I mean, it wasn't just about Burma Oil anymore. It set a precedent. Suddenly, the government was staring down the barrel of a potentially massive bill for all kinds of property destroyed under its orders during the war. But if you think the story ends there, you are mistaken. The government might have lost in court, but they had one final jaw-dropping move to make. The fight was about to move out of the courtroom and into the halls of Parliament itself.
So what did the government do? They didn't appeal. Instead, they went to Parliament and passed a new law, the War Damage Act of 1965. And here's where it gets truly wild. This new law was retroactive. What does that mean? It means it changed the law back in time. It's like a referee changing the rules of a game after the final whistle to say the losing team actually won. No joke. This new act basically said that even though the court's decision was right based on the law at the time, the law itself was now different and had been different all along. And just like that, Burma Oil's hard-won legal victory was, poof, gone, erased.
And what we just saw is a perfect, textbook demonstration of a massive concept in the UK's constitution, parliamentary sovereignty. At its core, it means Parliament is the boss, the supreme #1 lawmaking body. It can create any law, it can get rid of any law, and nobody, not even the highest court in the land, can overrule it. The courts interpret the law, but Parliament gets to write and rewrite the rulebook itself. It's the ultimate trump card.
Which brings us right back to our huge critical question. The Burma oil case isn't just some dusty old story. It's a perfect, real-world example of the power struggle at the heart of a democracy. You have the courts, which can hold the government accountable based on the law, but then you have the elected parliament, which holds the ultimate power to change that law. This exact same tension plays out today in debates all over the world about government actions during emergencies, and it leaves us with this really profound question. When a true crisis hits, where should the final say really lie? With the courts and the rule of law, or with the will of the elected government?